And welcome to a VSA Capital video blog, and delighted to actually have returning pretty soon after he was last here, James Anderson, the President and CEO of Guanajuato Silver. And there's clearly a very good reason why you're back again so soon from when I came and visited you in Mexico in the summer. You've done pretty much actually what you wanted to do, which was raise a load of money first, which was about a month ago or so, and now you've gone and done the acquisition with the cash, which obviously is the Bolanitos gold and silver mine. My Mexican isn't as good as yours, James. But this is a pretty exciting acquisition, isn't it?
Well, it is for us. Bolanitos is immediately adjacent to one of our current mines, San Ignacio. So the synergies and the ability to be able to make this, really into a 1 + 1 = 3 type of acquisition, I think there's a lot of obvious things about it. It continues this idea that we started 5 years ago about consolidating the whole Guanajuato Mining District. That's why we're called Guanajuato Silver. It has been busy, and although we didn't plan every last little move here, but the market opened up about 6 weeks ago, as you know, and everything was getting financed. So we took in some money, and now we've got enough money to be able to close this transaction in early 2026.
No, I mean, it's not actually 1 + 1 = 3. I think it's more a case of 4 + 1 = 5, isn't it?
Okay. Yes, I think that's right. Or let me get my promoter hat on. 4 + 1 = 6 at least, because I think that there are a lot of additional synergies in terms of administration, in terms of being able to just socially being able to continue to consolidate the district.
Yeah, and I mean, you've always said, as you say, you're called Guanajuato Silver for a very clear reason, and you've now got almost the entire city surrounded. And of course, it's as you acquire more mining projects for your process plants, they become more efficient as well, don't they?
Well, they do, and I don't want to give your listeners or anyone else in Guanajuato the idea that we've made any final decisions about this. However, we now have 3 flotation plants to process mineral in Guanajuato. There's one. Well, I'm assuming that we close on this transaction at Bolanitos, at Cata, where you've been, and at Cubo. All of them last year in 2025 were running somewhere between 60 and 75% capacity. So there's an obvious, choice here about streamlining that and putting all of the material through 2 of the processing plants. So we've done a lot of thinking about that, but I don't want to make any decisions ahead of ourselves, before we finish the transaction and really sink our teeth into it.
And I mean, now around Guanajuato City, it's pretty much you and Fresnillo, isn't it?
Correct. And I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that our friends at Fresnillo will look at this transaction and say, gosh, look at this little Guanajuato Silver company. Maybe we can do some business with them in some way. So allow me, Andrew, just to outline that quickly for your listeners as well. We have the only active mines and processing plants in the Guanajuato region right now. The second largest holder of mining claims is Fresnillo, which is London listed and is the world's largest silver producer. None of their operations in and around Guanajuato are currently operating. They do, however, on care and maintenance, the largest plant in the district. So there's a lot of synergies, and I've made this point to their CEO on many occasions. Our veins are your veins. They cross from our claims onto your claims. They should all be mined most effectively by either by one company or a combined entity of some kind. So I'm hoping that this will stir the pot enough to carry on that conversation and accelerate the conversation.
I mean, logically, it does, doesn't it? And I mean, logic normally works out, doesn't it?
In the very long term, I think that's true. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite interesting because when I came out over the summer, I visited 4 mines, and some had a sort of, no, we can do it all organic. Some had it, no, we'd quite be interested in acquisitions, but you looked at it and thought, well, yeah, but where are those acquisitions? How do you actually benefit from them? I mean, what you've done now over the past well, basically 3 years, I suppose it is actually a whole series of acquisitions to make this really fascinating and serious business, haven't you?
Yes, and I appreciate that. I thank you for that. I think if I can add just a little bit of perspective on that, I think that 20 years ago, some of the smaller Mexican mining companies with the assets that they have currently could do just fine in a public arena, in a public market, and everybody'd be quite happy. I don't think that that's true today. And the reason why I say that is because of the added regulatory pressure, at every level in Mexico and in environmental regulatory, rules and regulations, in Canada with, added regulatory scrutiny and regulatory expense at every level in the public company arena. So the idea of small companies, small mines being successful public companies, I think is much harder than it was 20 years ago. And so therefore, ipso facto, these companies have to expand, and they have to expand, not in a glacial manner. They have to expand relatively quickly. That's what we've tried to do. It's been tough, as you know, some ups and downs within the mines, ups and downs within the capital markets, but I think we're in a really good position here right now, especially with this acquisition. Allow me to make one more comment on that. A lot of times that you see M&A of any kind in the mining business, you kind of tilt your head a little bit and say, well, does that really help? You've got a mine in Quebec, and they merge with some company in West Africa. Okay, well, they're both in the mining business. Maybe they even mine the same elements, but does it really help in the business? The transaction that we announced last Monday with us buying Bolanitos, and we can get into the details of that if you like, but that it's an obvious synergistic combination of mining assets.
Yeah, and look, I think actually people forget just how difficult M&A is, full stop, in mining. I mean, for what you've done over the past 3 years is really quite remarkable. Now, you have obviously had to issue quite a lot of the shares in order to get to where you are. But I mean, now we're actually going to turn, I do want to come on to a little bit about the asset you bought, because actually it's going to increase your production significantly, isn't it? And for the price you've paid, it looks incredibly good value.
I think so. Of course, 10 days ago, I would have been arguing, with the other side that, hey, there's this issue and that issue, and we're paying more than full value. You guys should be so happy. But today, I can switch hats and directions a little bit. I think we've got very good value. I think in our previous acquisitions, Andrew, because we were buying things that had been, that were, I don't want to say on fire sale prices, but, El Cubo had been closed for a couple of years. Great Panther was having some serious financial stress. We got absolutely pennies on the dollar value. Bolanitos is different. It's running really well. It's running very efficiently. And in a very good gold and silver market. So I think it would be unrealistic for us to think that we could steal the thing. But $50 million, that's the total headline price that we're paying. There are a number of analysts that have had it, in their models at $100 million or more. It will be our best and biggest mine, when we close this. And I think that's just a very important comment for Guanajuato Silver.
Yeah, I think the point I was trying to draw out, and probably didn't draw it out properly, was that in the past you made acquisitions, as you say, of slightly distressed assets. And so you've had to put a lot of your own money into them to get them to a level which is acceptable. The great thing about this acquisition, it's profitable already. I mean, I'm sure there will be things you can do, hopefully, to improve it. And as you say, we're playing a 1 + 4 = 6 game. But that's the big difference with this acquisition, isn't it? It's not one where you've got to go, oh, now I've got to spend lots of money to get it up and running.
No, that's absolutely correct. Endeavour Silver has done over the last number of years a very professional job. First of all, about making their production really steady state. It's been about 2.4 million silver equivalent ounces every year for the last 4 years with very limited variation. That's hard to do with narrow underground mining, period. This year, according to Endeavour's figures and prognostications, that is likely going to, the production numbers are likely going to drop just slightly to about 2.3 million. But with our San Ignacio mine being, I like to say, a 7-iron shot beside Bolanitos, it's very, very close. So rather than us having to transfer that material that we mine about 25 kilometers to process it, now we can transfer it about 3 kilometers to process it. So all of those things. To your point too, the amount of money that we've needed to spend to kind of move these assets to get better and better. Endeavour has been doing that. They spend about 15 million US dollars a year on sustaining capex at Bolanitos, and so it's a mine. It's got bigger equipment, bigger accesses than we have at our mines. It's a bigger and better operation.
I mean, this sort of puts you into the big boys league as well, doesn't it now? I mean, your production numbers are going to look really serious, and you should be able to start really throwing off some cash. And all these worries about, will they need to raise more money? They should all be put completely to bed now. And actually, you've just got what I describe as, an open view in front of you to just get on and mine efficiently, improve things. You've got the team in place. I mean, actually, the next few years look pretty healthy for you, don't they?
They do. We couldn't ask for better metal prices, and I've said for the last couple of years regarding Guanajuato Silver before Bolanitos that we had built a platform for growth within central Mexico, and I think that platform moves a shoulder higher here with this acquisition.
I mean, again, on this acquisition, it would appear as, there's always a danger when you've got high metal prices that people make an acquisition at a high metal price and the price goes down and, that wasn't quite such a good acquisition. It does look on this as though you've sort of priced in a should we say, much lower silver price to still make it a good acquisition so that you don't have to worry about that.
That's what I believe. We started talking about this with Endeavour many months ago. As you say, M&A in this business is not easy. There was a lot of due diligence, a lot of discussions, a lot of negotiation back and forth. But the pricing that we had set, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, didn't change. And I tip my hat to Dan Dixon and Endeavour. At no time did they come back and go, well, hey, things have changed. We got to change this deal a little bit. They were good to their word all the way through. I anticipate a very smooth transition between their own ownership and ours. And then I agree with you. I think silver has just been on fire. At some point, the price backs up, right? Things don't go straight up forever. But even if we pull back, significantly from Friday's closing price, which was a new all-time high for the price of silver, even if we pull back from that, the synergies that are involved in this acquisition trump any kind of pullback in the metal prices.
Look, for what it's worth, over the next 18 months, 2 years, I think silver could easily go as high as $75, if not higher. There are so many geopolitical and other reasons why gold and silver are running. I think that it's, you're right, things don't go up in a straight line, but, there's a lot of momentum now to go significantly higher, which would have an unbelievable impact on you.
Yeah, I agree. Just technically, silver has a really interesting and unusual technical look. There is the triple top if you go back decades, right, of 50 and 50 and 50. But even on a shorter term basis, in the last 4 or 5 months, we've had a triple top here. And on Friday, or maybe Thursday and Friday, we went right through that cross line. That's a really powerful technical picture. And from a fundamental perspective, we've been in a supply deficit for 4 years. There's nothing that this price of silver is going to do to reduce consumption of silver at the industrial level or for photovoltaics. So I don't, I don't want to be one of those CEOs that barks up the metal that they're mining forever and ever and ever. But I in my heart of hearts, I see a big pullback for any extended period of time, really difficult in the tight silver supply market that we've got.
Yeah, look, we're in a big commodities mining bull market at the moment as well, and I think it'll go on for quite a few years. But just a couple more questions, James. You are in Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum seems to be doing quite a good job, but there's been a little bit of political unrest just recently within that government, I think. Is there anything you're worried at all about there?
Yeah, there's a number of things I'm worried about. All of our operations are in Mexico. I'm in Mexico right now. I mentioned that. I've been here in Guanajuato for about 3 weeks, Andrew. Tomorrow, myself and 2 of our senior engineers are going to Topia. That's our mine that is not in Guanajuato. It's a much smaller operation, but very high grade in the state of Durango. So we'll spend most of the day getting there. Ms. Sheinbaum and the Mexican government, I think the political unrest that you're referring to are, if your listeners don't know, a number of the highways over the last 2 or 3, maybe 4 days even, were blockaded in different parts of Mexico. And this has to do with protests by farmers. And I think, from your perspective in London, I think maybe the best way to look at that, like the French do this every 2 years, whether they need to or not, right? They go and burn some barricades and everything looks very uneasy in Paris and in Lyon and, around France. And then, I don't know what happens, but all of the French farmers go back to work and everybody seems happy again. So I think it's not unlike that. The Sheinbaum government made some changes to to accessibility of water and water rights, which the law that they were reforming, had gone back at least 100 years, and they felt that it needed some modernization. I'm not an expert on that, that line item. I don't know. I think this will pass, and it's not going to be a big deal. The couple of things that I am concerned about, Ms. Sheinbaum is very popular. It is a very socialist government. They don't particularly like mining, and they don't particularly like expatriate mining. There will be other CEOs who will point to a couple of different permits that have been given over the last couple of weeks as a milestone and a bellwether for better things to come. I'm still on the fence about that. I haven't seen enough evidence to suggest that what I have seen for the last 4 or 5 years is really not a particularly helpful government when it comes to mining. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that can change. Mining continues to be an important business, perhaps not as important as some people might think in Mexico, but it's a traditional business. We employ lots of people. After we close this transaction, Andrew, we will nationwide. Little Guanajuato Silver will employ about 1,400 people. So, they should pay a little bit of attention to us, right?
But just to note, by the way, British farmers also now are protesting and driving their tractors into London. So we have it too.
My only advice for British farmers would be go to Paris, because you'll get better press. You'll probably get a better reaction.
Just very, very finally, James. People are always interested in the news flow coming up when they're looking at a share price. What news flow have you got coming up for us in the next couple of months or so?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I think Guanajuato Silver always, is mindful of that, and we're always very busy in doing things to be able to continue the story of our expansion, and but it has to be real. We will be having some exploration results in the next not too distant future. That'll be exciting. Let me go out on a limb. I think we will be able to close this transaction in the first week in January. Both sides are eager to get this done. I was at Bolanitos on Friday with, there were 4 of us, Andrew, and about 40 of the people who work at Bolanitos. And of course, they were quizzical about, okay, so what does all this mean? And I think that our team did a really good job in explaining, what we want to do with the company, because it's actually the company that owns Bolanitos, the Mexican company owned by Endeavour. That's what we're buying, not just the mine. I think that within, only just 5 weeks, we will be able to announce the closing of this transaction. And I think, although there may well be other bits and pieces of news along the way, that's going to be a real milestone for our company, and to get that behind us as swiftly as possible, that'll be really important.
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you for talking to me again. I think, there is a lot, as you say, still coming down, and there's a lot of work to be done for the next 18 months, regardless of the silver price, that is really beneficial to Guanajuato Silver shareholders. So it's always great to talk with you, James. I love talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Igualmente, as we say here. And no, really, it's I always think that you do such a great job, Andrew, of conducting these interviews, and it's always a pleasure.
There we go. Always good to compliment each other. And on that note, I'll let you get on and have the rest of the day in Mexico. Thanks, James.
Okay, cheers.